What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today we're going to be taking a deep look at the brand new JAK Atlas Kit for the AMR9 SMG. I'm going to break down all of the important stats, and then toward the end I wanted to share a couple class setups that I've been using with this kit and finding a lot of fun and success with so far. And diving right in, the big first thing to point out here is with this kit, you're converting the AMR9 into a 5-round burst, just like the AMR9 from Advanced Warfare. Now in doing so, we are also seeing less damage than the base version of the AMR9, and we have several different body multipliers. So we deal the most damage to the head, of course. Then our second damage zone is going to be the upper torso and arms, all the way down to the hands. After that, we have a lower torso damage zone that's a little bit less than upper torso, and then finally we have a leg damage zone. And with this, if you're hitting those upper torso and arm shots, which more often than not, that's where you should be aiming and hitting, it's going to be a 5 to 7 shot kill. It's also worth noting, within that maximum damage range for that 5-shot kill, which is a 1-burst kill, you can also hit them in that lower torso zone and it will still maintain that 5-shot kill potential. You just want to be careful you're not mixing in any leg shots, because that could easily now make it a 2-burst kill. As for our rate of fire, within each of those 5-round bursts, it's roughly 848 rounds per minute, and then we've got a roughly 50 millisecond burst delay, which isn't much of a delay at all. And it's also worth noting, this is one of those burst guns where it has an auto burst feature, so you can just hold down the trigger and it will automatically keep bursting over and over again, or if you want, you can just tap fire like you traditionally would with a burst weapon. Now, what this means for our time to kill potential is with that 1-burst kill, if we're hitting all 5 shots to the torso, we're killing in 284 milliseconds, which is pretty much the same as the base AMR9 in full auto. And while this is worse than average for SMGs up close, it's still within the realm of being competitive. You can still hold your own just fine up close with 284 milliseconds to kill, and you're definitely still going to be outgunning assault rifles at that point. However, the downside with this is if you don't get that 1-burst kill, as soon as we're getting into a 6-shot kill, now it's going to take you the extra burst, and our time to kill shoots all the way up to 405 milliseconds, which is quite a slow time to kill in this game. Next, let's have a look at our range values compared to the base AMR9, and unfortunately, it's not looking too great for this kit. Our 5-shot kill potential is just over 15 meters, and then beyond that, it's going to be a 6-shot kill out to 22.5 meters, and then after that, it's going to take you 7 shots to kill to the body, which isn't really great, and statistically speaking, you're often going to be outgunned in those situations. However, I do want to make a subjective note here. With this being a 2-burst kill, and a fairly forgiving 2-burst kill as well, since you're firing 10 shots with 2 bursts, so you're likely to hit at least 7 of those 10 shots, subjectively, it feels just fine in those mid-range engagements. Sure, statistically speaking, you will be outgunned, and if you are playing against equally skilled players using top-tier meta weapons, you're not going to be able to compete super well. But just based on my experience at least, it feels just fine in those mid-range engagements. But let's get back to the objective data here, and another thing I wanted to point out is we do get some nicely boosted bullet velocity at 813 meters per second when using this kit, and that's an excellent boost over the base AMR9. As for hardcore modes, I just wanted to point out we only get a 1-shot kill potential in that maximum damage range to the body. However, with it being a 5-round burst, it's almost impossible to only land 1 bullet within that burst anyway, so I'm sure this kit is just fine for hardcore. You just might run into a situation where you're running out of ammo really quickly since you're wasting 5 shots when you only really need 1 or 2 to hit. As for recoil, this is an interesting area with this kit. As you can see, it walks itself up quite nicely if you're just holding down that burst. There's not much horizontal recoil at all, not much side-to-side bounce as well. But you'll notice within each burst, there's a fair amount of recoil. It does kick up quite a bit, and then it just recenters really quickly between bursts, which prevents it from climbing super high if you're firing multiple bursts consecutively. And this reasonably high recoil within the burst is what's often going to be throwing you off and preventing you from getting those consistent 1-burst kills. So this is an area where you really want to just focus on what the goal of your build is, and you may want to try to get that vertical recoil under control to improve your 1-burst kill consistency. After that, let's get into our handling stats, and they're pretty much exactly the same as the base AMR9. So our aim down sight speed is 240 milliseconds, which is slow for an SMG. It's more along the lines of what you'd expect out of an assault rifle. And our sprint to fire time is a bit worse than SMGs, but definitely better than most assault rifles at 136 milliseconds. And then finally, our reload add time is just 1.32 seconds, which is actually a little better than average for SMGs. It's not bad at all. And then finally, let's get into our mobility stats, which are exactly the same as the base AMR9. And all of these are below average for an SMG, since in many ways this gun is treated as sort of an SMG assault rifle hybrid. So it's not horrible, and it's still generally going to be much better than most assault rifles, it's just not quite as good as the other SMGs in the game. And with all of the base stats out of the way, let's get into some solid attachment combinations I threw together for you guys, keeping in mind there's actually a lot of different ways that you can build this. So these are by no means the only way to build this gun with this kit. These are just a couple ways that I've found a lot of success with so far, And the first one I wanted to share for you is what I just like to call my balanced build. And with this, we're using the ZEM35 compensated flash hider. This one helped very nicely with the recoil. It actually helped more than the trebuchet brake for this particular gun. We've also got the SL Skeletal vertical underbarrel to help with handling as well as that vertical recoil. We're also using the JAK Glassless optic just to improve that firing aim stability a little bit. And the Seraph 14 heavy stock. This one helps quite a bit with firing aim stability as well as recoil. And when you put all of this together, you can see that we've really nicely improved the recoil here, especially with each individual burst. There are much smaller gaps between those bullets, and the total magnitude of that recoil is very nicely reduced. And we were able to achieve that without really sacrificing much in the handling department. Our aim down sight speed is very slightly slower at 247 milliseconds. That's still perfectly fine for a gun like this. And our sprint out time was unchanged, which just makes this a solid, balanced, all-around sort of build with the Atlas kit. However, I also wanted to share a bit more of a specialized build. This one's not going to be quite as versatile as the previous one. This is what I like to call my stealth and strafe build, because the AMR9 is well suited to a strafe build due to the fact that it can use the JAK Cutthroat stock on it. So what I did with this one is I have the Shadow Strike suppressor, the Chimera Seraphic underbarrel, the JAK Cutthroat stock, and the Sakin ZX rear grip. And with this one, while the recoil isn't great, and I definitely wouldn't be using this one for longer range engagements, I'm definitely trying to keep myself in more close quarter situations, we do get a very solid aim walking speed at 4.1 meters per second. And especially if you combine this with those stalker boots, you can really strafe effectively back and forth in gunfights and dodge shots as you're putting shots on target. And just like with the previous build, our aim down sight speed is 247 milliseconds, which isn't the fastest out there, but we're going to be aiming down sight and strafing a whole lot anyway. And our sprint out time is also very slightly slower, but it's by a negligible amount. It's effectively the same as the base gun. So this just offers you a totally different way to use this. It's more for getting right up close and personal, strafing a lot in those gunfights, not so much for trying to stretch the range out and challenge people at mid to longer ranges. And with that, that is going to wrap it up for today's video on the brand new kit that came for the AMR9. And overall, when it comes to my thoughts on this kit, I just consider this to be one of those kits where it's fun to use, it's interesting to use because there's nothing else quite like it in the game, but at the end of the day, it's not going to be the most competitive gun out there. I absolutely wouldn't be pulling this kit out in a really tough match against really good players using meta weapons, but if you happen to find yourself in a more laid-back lobby, I just find that this is a nice change of pace and it can be very enjoyable to use this. Now, of course, these are just my opinions on the JAK Atlas kit, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about this kit in those comments down below. Are you guys enjoying it so far, or not so much? If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.